Welcome to the Somatic Coaching Academy podcast with Ani and Brian. Join us as we explore the art and science of trauma-sensitive somatic practices and tools to strengthen your practice as a coach, therapist, or holistic professional. Master the art of motivating even the most challenging clients when you'll understand how to tap into and unlock your client's complete holistic intelligence. If you want to learn the most cutting-edge, research-supported skills for personal and professional mastery, you've come to the right place. Let's get this conversation started.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Somatic Coaching Academy podcast. We're really excited to have you here for episode 37. We are back in the faculty lounge today.
Hey, where are the snacks?
Hey there, Brian.
Huh? We needed snacks in the faculty lounge last time. And
oh, yeah, we didn't bring them.
Oh, actually, no.
But we did bring a guest this
time. Yes, we're so excited.
Excited to have a member of our faculty here in the faculty lounge. Hey, Shawna Pelton, welcome to the faculty lounge.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you all.
We're excited to have you here, and we're excited to talk about your story because in the faculty lounge, we're sharing case studies. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed that last time, Brian, when we were sharing a case study. And I'm really looking forward to hearing about Shawna's.
Yeah, so Shawna is an expert in the world of using psychedelics and helping people work through trauma-sensitive issues and get their lives back. I'm going to let Shawna describe a little bit more about what she does in just a moment. We're going to ask her to do that. But really today what we're talking about is how psychedelic practitioners can use somatic coaching skills and practices for safer integration with their client work.
Shawna, you've been, we talk to our students about how not a lot of our students are actually doing work with trauma, but you actually have been working with trauma content with folks for kind of a long time. Would you give us a little insight into your background?
Yeah, sure. So I didn't necessarily aim to work with trauma. It just so happened that a lot of people were finding me because they were experiencing the long-term effects of complex childhood trauma, not even aware that that's why they were experiencing the things that they were going through. My background started just over 20 years ago. And as a matter of fact, it started with energy medicine. And but it was at a time when nobody knew what energy medicine was, never mind like how much, like it's literally integrated now into the modern day medical model, like with a lot of nurses using it in hospitals and all that. But that's where I got my start. And then it moved from there. I just started to have a passion for learning how to help people heal and transform their most difficult patterns in life. And it's evolved over the years. So I say that I'm a holistic health practitioner, but honestly, it's really hard to pinpoint or put me in a box because it's just been an evolution as a practitioner and a coach and a healer and a consultant and so many different roles that I've shown up in service and teacher and trainer. There's just been so many ways in which I've been able to support people on their development, healing, developing, and evolutionary journey. And so, so I started in energy medicine, worked through natural protocols as well with natural medicine and also like herbs and nutrition and that sort of thing. And then I moved into learning more. This was actually one of the biggest things that helped me understand bioenergetics, like the understanding of like what's actually going on with the energy and physical body and mind and all that was actually a study in biontology. I was one of the first practitioners in the country to get trained by an institute over from Germany. This was back in, I think, 2011. And that really opened up my world to learning the science behind the bioenergetics. And that was really, I think, a profound shift for me as a practitioner. And then I moved into doing, from there, essentially, it just kept leading me on my own path of personal healing, but also what I loved to do for others, which was to support them in going deeper into what's the root cause of why it is that you're going through what you're going through. And so, yeah, here I am 20 years later. And essentially what I tell people is like, it's like an amalgamation. Like you take everything that you've learned over the years and it becomes something else. And that's essentially where I'm at now. It's like something has emerged out of the decades of applying all these various modalities and into one beautiful, comprehensive system for helping people transform on very deep levels. Did that even answer your question? I don't even know.
You have a lot of training and different certifications that you've taken even before the Somatic Coaching Academy. Shawna is a graduate of each of our certification programs, and you come very highly credentialed. Actually, it's funny, Shawna, because every time we talk, I learn about another certification that I've known you for like 12 years, but I didn't know you had. But you got into all of this stuff because of personal trials, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your own story that led you to healing and looking deeper at yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a young mom, and my son's father was struggling and lost his battle with addiction. And my son was about 2.5 years old at the time. And I actually had one of those surreal moments where you kind of like start blinking your eyes and you think, wait a minute, wait a minute. And this is what I knew, it was like a realization. If I was to continue the path that I was on, I was going to follow suit, and my struggles were going to take over. And then I would put my son in a position where he would be an orphan. Like that was my realization.
Yeah.
And I knew in that moment that I wanted to show him a model that was different, even though I didn't know what that model was, because I was like most people, especially my generation and above, we grew up with the medical model. I had gone to the doctors and she told me that, well, you're going to need, when I said to her, something's not right, I am not okay, I need help. And she said, well, you're just going to need to be on medication for the rest of your life. You're that kind of person. And it was just an absolute, like, yeah, jaw-dropping moment for me, but it was exactly what I needed to hear, because in that moment I realized that I was barking up the wrong tree.
Right.
And so I knew that I needed to change. I just didn't know what that was, because there wasn't anything really accessible. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have TikTok influencers telling us all about somatic coaching.
Right.
Yeah. And so I had to go to this building. It was a big brick building. They called it the library. And you could get all kinds of things, books, audios, videos. And I literally immersed myself in the healing and spiritual teaching and metaphysical. That was the other thing, like deep knowledge, deep esoteric wisdom teachings I explored. So that began my journey of my own personal healing. But on that note, I know this is long, I'm going to quicken it. On that note, I remember one day having a positive shift, and I knew I was on to something. I could feel my life was changing. It wasn't where I'm at now, but I could tell there was something real. And I had a moment, and I was staring out the window, and I thought to myself, I can see it so vividly right now. And I thought to myself, there are so many people like me who are struggling, and they don't know there's another way other than the traditional model of treating symptoms. And so with that, I made a commitment that I was going to be of service and make a difference in the world. And I literally said to myself, I don't know how I'm going to do that. I don't know what I'm going to do. I just was committed to making an impact in people's lives to help them, provide them with alternatives to what they were familiar with. And so that began my own quest for discovering all of this. Like I said, 20 years of nonstop pursuit of knowledge, but more than knowledge, this is important. Everyone needs to hear this. Knowledge is not equal to transformation. Knowledge is information. It's what you do with that information that leads to breakthroughs, that lead to change. And so with that, here we are today.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, powerful wisdom there, Shawna. I mean, that's amazing. And a lot of this is a lot of what I appreciate about you. You know, being a part of the, you know, the Somatic Coaching Academy, and, you know, on faculty now with us, and going through your cohort and bringing that grounded sense of your own personal transformation through the experience, and then sharing that with all of your peers through that cohort experience that you went through when you went through the certification program. It just was really impressive to me, and I really valued it and honored it so much for you. And it was always so enjoyable for me.
Yeah, your personal story is really inspiring, and I think it's so relatable.
Yeah.
On so many levels. And so you were doing the work and you were working with people. And I remember I talked to you. I mean, we've been friends for a number of years. And I remember it was actually the year before you came on to take the certification programs. I was starting to think maybe Shawna will come in and get certified with us. But I remember thinking too, like, but I'm not exactly sure why. I just have a sense that, you know, maybe she'll come and take the certifications, but I don't exactly know why. But you started to actually see some things in your personal practice with your clients that you knew you wanted to do something different about, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. And so I love that you were thinking of me, because I did have that same, like, I was like, huh, what's Ani up to? I wonder. Right. So it was like, But when before around the time that you were getting started with this iteration of your academy for, you know, training coaches, I was also going deeper into getting trained as a certified psychedelic therapist
Right.
to, you know, because I was seeing people, like I said, people would come with their complex trauma, and what I was doing on an energetic and, you know, working with them spiritually, and working with just their energy and also nutrition, all that, whatever it was that I was helping them with. I wasn't necessarily moving the needle on progress. It's almost like I was also just alleviating symptoms, and that's what I realized. And so I personally had profound experiences working with plant medicine for my own healing. It was they were catalysts for great change for me, but it wasn't like, you know, oh, I'm just going to go do drugs. It was, I had one experience that changed my life, and then I had to learn to integrate that experience. And then I'd go and have another, like, years later, right? So with that, I knew that the medicine could be profound. And so I got trained as a certified psychedelic somatic interactional therapist. And in that, I was seeing people's transformation. However, this is something that really stood out to me, because I realized very quickly on that just because I was trauma informed, it didn't make me trauma sensitive as a practitioner. And I felt literally helpless when my client, specifically, I had one client, I had probably had a few that had challenges, but one particular comes to mind. And she was so destabilized by the deep dive that she had with me. And I didn't have the tools or the resources or any kind of like ancillary support system in place to actually help her integrate the experience, to make sense of it, and to actually restabilize her nervous system, to get her back into her window of tolerance. I didn't even have the language for these things. And yet here I am working directly with trauma, and I didn't have the way in which you need to work with someone with trauma, the right capacity or ability or sensitivities. So with that, I mean, I had emotional sensitivities. I didn't have the skills. Let's put it that way. I didn't have the skills. And that was my eye opener after she had such a destabilization that affected her life, and she couldn't function, and she had to take off of work. And she was working with me for so long before that, and said, I still trust you, and I don't blame you. And I know that this is part of the thing that, you know, I signed up for, like accessing deep trauma. Of course, it's going to really affect me. But then and there, I knew that I needed a better way, and I wasn't sure what that better way was. And then somehow, some way, I found what you guys were doing, and I didn't know. Like, I honestly, I didn't have a knowing in my head that you guys were going to offer me exactly what I needed. But there was something deep inside of me that just felt right. It was like, oh, this is what you need, and you'll figure it out later. How you know you. So with that said, I started with core centering with you guys, and then joined every other program that you had, because I immediately started to apply core centering like instantly. The second I got trained and certified in core centering, I put together a bi-weekly class, and that's been long-standing. And the clients that I've had in that program have not left. Years later, they still come, and they show up every week for these core centering practices because it's making a huge difference in their life. And they invite people. Like, this is definitely something is happening here. There's an impact that's been made with the core centering. And I feel really, and also, and this is the other thing about the core centering, because it's not just about like what I do after a session, but it's like, oh, after a one-on-one session, I have group classes for core centering. And is it okay if I go down this path? I started a conversation and realized you didn't ask.
Sure.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay.
We're just hanging out.
Yeah,
hang on, Chad. Hang on, Chad.
We love talking with you, Shawna. Go for it.
Awesome. I actually started to incorporate the core centering in the sessions, like my one-on-one sessions. And literally, people are saying to me, like the other day, I had a client after literally a mere 4 one-on-one sessions. He literally said, first thing out of his mouth when we got on the phone, he was like, I am a changed man.
I love it.
I am a changed man. And he was like, you won't believe what's happened since the last time we met. And so, I'd like to say that that's like, oh, it's like, wow, what a random thing. Hooray. But it's not random. It's science. It's very strategic. And I've been incorporating these protocols since in the couple of years. I feel like 3 years. I feel like I'm almost coming up on 3 years since core centering I started. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say that's right. That's about right.
Because I know Jameson was a baby. That's how I go. That's how I know, because he was a baby. Yeah. So here I am 3 years later, and I can tell you that I feel so confident knowing that I'm going to get people real solid results using these very gentle, very specific, and very sensitive practices that work on an energetic level with trauma, that work on the core wound level, that work with all of these mental defenses, emotional defenses, and even relational pieces as well, which is something also, like I learned in the past, I do incorporate some interaction and relational stuff into my work. But all of it's to say, like, without what you guys taught me, I would not feel as confident or even safe to facilitate these deep dive sessions with people, with or without psychedelics. Even though psychedelics are a big part of what a lot of clients do with me, they're not not all clients do it, the psychedelic medicine, the plant medicine. So it's about the actual ability to navigate that terrain of the unconscious, where all of the stuff is hidden in Pandora's box. And we have a way to very neatly unpack it and manage it and be able to integrate it into people's lives so that they don't get dysregulated and destabilized by the journey.
Yeah. It's that confidence, right? Because you and I have talked about this. It's kind of astounding that you don't necessarily get that training just because you're getting trained in psychedelics or integration coaching or anything. I mean, even doctors or nurses and therapists and aren't necessarily trauma informed, or like you're saying, trauma sensitive, which means when things come up, you really know what to do. That has to be like, it's confidence almost like isn't enough, right? To like the word, like to be able to know that you can handle anything that comes up. But it sounds also like you're able to kind of proactively put some things in your program so that those things are actually less likely to happen anyway.
Yes. And that's the case. And that's the thing. That's the case.
That's so
They're
cool.
less likely to happen. And when they do happen, they're not as dangerous. They're not as dangerous because I baked in what you guys created. I baked into my model that I was already running with. And so now it's an even more robust model and methodology that is so profound in what people are experiencing. Like my heart is full. I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, I would just want to touch on something, Shawna. Well, you said so many amazing things there. I mean, I'm just making a list in my head of all the things I'd love to just kind of go deeper into with you. I think it's awesome. And I also just, I feel you, my sister, on what brought me actually to the trauma sensitive work too is this very similar situation that you had with somebody. And so me, it was body work, doing body work with people, 15, 20 years ago. And I distinctly remember doing a body work session with somebody who I knew very well. They're actually a friend in that I would socialize with, and those sorts of things, and came in kind of for some work on their back. And during the session had a re-traumatization. And I was helpless. I felt absolutely helpless during that experience. And I swore to myself, I never wanted that to happen to another client I was working with, or to myself again. And it was because at that time I was doing deeper work around connective tissue and kind of knew I was kind of dabbling in some sensitive areas for people, but a lot of naivety on my part of, oh, let's just release the trauma sort of thing and it'll all be fine.
Like a balloon.
Yeah. And it doesn't work like that.
Doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. And so I would wish that no coach or therapist who even is dipping their toes in deeper work with people ever has that experience.
Right.
And that's a lot of the reason that we went all this time and this loving effort to put together these programs to help practitioners just like yourselves who are using plant medicine, who are doing deeper body work, who are doing spiritual practices, who are doing anything, breath work practices, anything that will elicit a potential re-traumatization. It's so important to help the person integrate that work safely. And, we can have, whether it's a plant medicine experience or, it's just, or it's a Kundalini experience, as humans, we have all these kinds of we can have these large energetic experiences, and whether we grade them or judge them as good or bad, what they really need is to be integrated. Going back to what you said before, it's not even about the knowledge or the experience, it's about the integration of those experiences into our lives that really helps us with sustainable and profound growth in our lives. And so you're just such a wonderful avatar, Shawna, of this work and how you're using it in the world. And it grew out of a painful spot for me. And I feel so pleased and rewarded to see you kind of taking this work out into the world and spearheading in a way that I wish I would have had 20 years ago.
I bet.
Now you're really doing that because, I mean, what's your vision for the future for you and for integration, coaching?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you should ask. And I appreciate your story, Brian, because it's one of the things that I realized very early on and why I stayed with the program is because I value, I'm a lover of learning, but I'm also, as you noted, 20 years of nonstop certification trainings and like getting myself masterful. I very much am. I'm not a snob in terms of I don't think I'm better than anyone by any stretch. Not at all. However, I do know a good teacher when I see one. And Brian, you provide still to this day for me a model of excellence in teaching and facilitating and mentorship that I needed. And I didn't even know I needed it. I was like, oh, I love this. And so I found myself really just, able to just soak in everything that you were doing through osmosis and be able to, kind of take it and transform it into my own expression as a teacher and a facilitator. And with that said, I've been inspired because I've recognized the need in the industry that I'm in with people who do journey into non-ordinary states of consciousness. sometimes they go there using plant medicines. Other times they go there with like maybe hypnosis or a deep, real visualization. And it's inevitable you're going to run into those occasional Pandora's box, right? Like the occasional like activation of a trauma response, and it kind of, once the floodgates open, if practitioners don't know how to journey through that unconscious realm, they're going to feel like us, like very insecure, maybe even like, and this is my worst, like imagining the worst case, like people think I'm not going to do this anymore because I don't like it, or I'm not good at it.
Right.
And it's like, hey, no, all you need to do is learn a few things, protocols that can really support you and supporting others, and you feel fulfilled getting the results that people are looking for. And so with that said, I'm taking the work that I have done over the years and putting it into a framework for coaches to be able to journey into those on non-ordinary states of consciousness, but also because on this path as a course centering certified facilitation trainer, I'm going to be incorporating that work so that people can actually be certified in integration with course centering as well, so that they too can really see what results can come from that and feel supported and be able to, it's, as a business, it's also good to be able to have a business model that feels like, oh, this is sustainable and I can grow here. So with that said, I decided that I'm going to be launching my training for that purpose this coming year. So I'm very excited for that.
That's awesome.
Love it.
And we're excited for you too. I mean, the fact that non-ordinary states of consciousness in a number of different ways, including plant medicine, is really opening up quite wide right now. And the knowledge that people like yourself are going out there to help people with the integration work using trauma sensitive and safe skills so that people can really do the work and get the safety in it. I mean, that gives me so much hope for our world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it.
Shawna, thank you so much for sharing your time and for coming on into the faculty lounge with us today. Really appreciated having you on.
I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging with us, Shawna.
We can't wait to see you
So
again next time.
fun.
See you in class. And thanks so much for those of you listening and watching for joining us for this edition of the Faculty Lounge. And Brian, I wonder who we're going to have next to be talking about case studies with us. But until then, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We hope that this conversation will help you improve your practice and change the way you think about your work, your clients, and yourself. Continue your exploration of trauma-sensitive somatic coaching by listening to more podcast episodes at somaticcoachingacademy.com. You could be the trusted guide that people turn to help them with their most challenging situations and to reach their most precious goals. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.